All right, welcome everybody. Thanks for coming on. I'm gonna try to let some people in as they get here, but we have a good number coming on right now, and I appreciate you guys hopping on and taking the time. I obviously thank Coach Chris Palmer for hopping on with this gang tonight to share some of his experiences from his illustrious coaching career. Um, and thank you to Mrs. Palmer for asking her brother-in-law Chris to do this. She's wonderful in so many ways, and just another way, we're here to support you. But um, yeah, so uh, I'm gonna do a quick intro here, and then we'll kind of get going here. And if you have questions, obviously, most of you guys have been on a bunch of these. Please just throw them in the chat as we go, and I'll try to get to them. I'd love to hear. There are some questions, Coach, from some of our guys, so I think those are great. So, but Coach Chris Palmer recently retired from the University of New Haven. Currently trying to purchase a house in New Hampshire. He's going through that. Coach's career, he was the head coach for the Cleveland Browns in the NFL from 99 to 2000. He was served in the same capacity for the Hartford Colonials, the UFL, United Football League, in 2010. Coach was the assistant coach with the Cowboys, the Houston Texans, the Jacksonville Jaguars, the New England Patriots, the New York Giants, the San Francisco 49ers, the Houston Oilers, the Tennessee Titans, and the Buffalo Bills. Coach is the head coach at the University of Haven and at Boston University. He coached at UConn, Lehigh, Colgate. But I saw Coach one time at a clinic when I was just trying to learn how to coach the quarterback. I left that clinic like pretty much assured that I didn't know anything about playing quarterback, which I probably don't. But I was so impressed with his teaching style and a lot of his mannerisms. When you read up on Coach, people talk about him being a great teacher, a great leader, integrity, character. One of the articles I read said low ego, high engagement. And he's taken the time out, an hour of his day, to spend with us. And we really appreciate it, Coach. So thank you so much.
No problem, Nick. My talk tonight is the journey for the ring. And right now, I don't know if you guys can see that, but that is a Super Bowl ring, okay? And Michael Strahan was one of the guys that designed this, and he wanted it to be a 10-table ring. And you say, what does that mean? It means that people can see the ring 10 tables away. And it's it's white gold because we won 11 games on the road. I'm not too far from you guys. I grew up in Brewster, New York. I went to school at Immaculate in Danbury, Connecticut. And we lived right in front of the high school. And my parents made the decision for me that it would be good to go to a private school that gave us some structure and discipline and set us up for the rest of our journey throughout life. I played at Immaculate for 4 years. Then I went to Southern Connecticut in New Haven, got a degree in health, physical education, and recreation, got my master's there. After I graduated from Southern, I went up to the University of Connecticut and spent 3 years there. At that time, the University of Connecticut had two positions, one for basketball and one for football, that you could teach at the training school, which is a school for the mentally retarded. Mansfield is where the Special Olympics started. Unit Shriver and Jim Mello, our director of athletics, he played fullback at Notre Dame, started the Special Olympics, and it grew from there. And the interesting thing, guys that were in that position, Jimmy Valvano, who went on to wind up coaching at Bucknell and then Iona and then North Carolina State, Bobby Stack, who went down and was the head basketball coach at Wake Forest, myself, Gary Blackney, who was the head coach at Bowling Green, and Joe Pascal, who was a defensive coordinator in the National Football League. So those are some of the guys that went through the program. But I was growing in that field a lot quicker than I was in coaching. My father never wanted me to go into coaching. He wanted me to come in and take over one of the business and become a plumber. But I wanted to venture out. And like you guys, right now, maybe you had a say in going to Trinity-Pawling, but maybe your parents had a bigger say on where you were going. In a few years, the guys that are seniors or PGs, they'll be taking and making a decision on where they want to go to college. And that decision is really the first decision you're going to make that's going to affect you for the next 40 or 50 years of your life. And you've got to think about it. You've got to have a self-talk with yourself and decide what you really want to do and what you want to be. I wanted to coach. I love coaching. I thought I was married my senior year in college. I thought we would go up to UConn and then come back and be a high school coach at the Danbury, Connecticut, Fairfield County area. And one thing led to another. I went to UConn, then I went to Lehigh. Then I was only at Lehigh for 1 year. And then I went up to Colgate and spent 7 years there. And then we led the country in offense with 486 yards, which back then in 1976, 77 was a lot of yards, and interviewed at UCLA and places like that. But I went up and coached in Montreal with the Montreal Alouettes after 7 years at Colgate. Then I went to work with the New Jersey Generals. Walt Michaels was our head coach, and Donald Trump was our owner. We had Flutie, Hersch Walker. We had great players, all guys that maybe some of you guys know, but as time goes by, it passes you by. I spent 25 years in the National Football League, and I enjoyed it. And at that time, when I went into the National Football League, guys were not getting into the National Football League until they were about 50. I was getting in when I was 40. And I said I was concerned, and the theme throughout the league was you wanted older coaches because they didn't want the players and the coaches being so close in age. That has completely changed now. They have kids that guys that are 25, 26 years old coaching, and it changes. The situation was one, I said to a veteran coach, what do you have to do as a coach? And he says, very simple. If the player thinks you're helping him get better, he'll run through a wall for you. And I always remembered that. And I said, you can't BS the players. You've got to be upfront. You got to tell the truth with them. And you have to be a teacher. And I was very fortunate. Not a lot of guys last 25 years in the National Football League. I was at 2 Super Bowls. I was at the Patriots when we played Green Bay in '96 and got beat down in New Orleans. We were in the Super Bowl on Sunday, and on Friday we were fired and looking for work. So that gives you a little bit of an idea how things go as far as coaching is concerned. The thing that you get in life, you get into a routine. And the routine is they're going to kick the ball off at 1 o'clock on Sunday afternoon. You've got to be ready to go. So you have to be disciplined. In my life, I normally make a decision within 25 to 40 seconds because that's what the play clock would allow me to do. And, it was a great experience. I enjoyed it tremendously, and we can talk about it later on. But I've got as much pleasure in, going to the Super Bowl and winning the Super Bowl against the Patriots in their quest for an undefeated season. But when I was in Hartford as the general manager and the head coach, we had a quarterback by the name of Josh McGowan. He played for us, and since that time, we resurrected his career. He was teaching at a high school in Charlotte and was a PE teacher. He came and played for us, and since resurrecting his career, he's made over $50 million since 2010. So it's nice when you get that feeling that you've helped a young man and helped his family be so successful. Then when I was done coaching, I was with 10 different teams, and the University of New Haven came to me and asked me if I would be interested in being the athletic director. Some of my players from the 86 and 87 team encouraged me to come back, and so on and so forth. And when I went back, it was eye-opening because today's youth does not have any faith in people telling them the truth. And I was very sad when I was talking with one of our women basketball players. She had a 4.0 GPA. She's over playing in Europe. She's got her master's. She's going to be very, very successful. And she said to me one day, she said, you know, when you told me you were going to give the seniors watches, I thought you were just another, AD that was going to say, hey, this is, just the story. And when I came through with the watches, she said, you're the only person that has really said things here at New Haven. And then they came through. And when she said that to me, it really had an effect on me, because I said to myself, here we are turning these people out into the world, and they don't know who they can trust. And if I was a young person today, if I could give you some advice, it would be to find somebody that's not going to tell you what you want to hear, but is going to tell you the truth. Now, you have coaches at Trinity-Pawling. And does anybody know the definition of coaching? Anybody? Anybody want to define it for me? Coaching is trying to take a person where they don't think they can go. Okay? That is a big statement, because your job as a coach is to try to get the most out of a player. You as a player may be the kind of player that needs to be hugged, patted on the back, and told how good they are so you get to that next level. You may be a player that has to be, threatened, and then you get there. You have to be tough on you. But the thing that's important is whether it's your chemistry teacher that's trying to push you to go to another level, instead of getting a C, get a B, instead of getting a B, get an A, and you getting upset with that teacher, all they're trying to do is get you to the next highest level of what you're capable of doing. One of the things when I got into the National Football League, I was with the Houston Oilers, and we had some Hall of Famers. I mean, I'm telling you, great players. Bruce Matthews, Mike Munchak, Hall of Famers. Warren Moon, Hall of Famers. We had 4 receivers that were all pro receivers. And Bruce Matthews, and we're winning. We're throwing the ball all over the place. And Bruce Matthews said to me, you don't know, Coach, how hard it is to win. And as I went through my 25 years in the National Football League, sometimes we did our best job of coaching, and we didn't have as many wins as I thought we should have had. And then once you realized how hard it was to win, you appreciated the wins more than anything else. And you can't dwell on it, because once you play the game, Bum Phillips, the old Houston Oiler and New Orleans Saints, was doing our color. You know, we're coming back from a game, we're on the plane, and I'm feeling down. And he said, "Hey, Chris, you don't have to be down. That game's over. Go on to the next one." And that's really what happens in life. You're going to have some bumps in the road. You're going to hit some things that are, you know, kind of messed up. And how are you going to react? Are you going to go into a shell? You're going to go hide? I mean, we got beat in Buffalo. We were up 35-3, and we wound up getting beat 38-35 in overtime. I didn't come out of my house for 2 weeks. The loss was so bad. 4 coaches got fired on the plane on the way home. But you have to appreciate and take every day and try to make it better. And that's what coaching has done for me. And, you know, I see players now. I'm, you know, in my 70s, and I see players that are in their 50s and head of companies and very, very successful. And they take a lot of the things that we have said as coaches and use it with their players. Whenever we lost the game, I would always look at myself and say, okay, who lost the game? And I would always say, I lost the game. The players didn't lose the game, because we didn't prepare you well enough. We didn't take and give you the right formula to beat the team we were playing. So you have to, you know, solve the problem yourself. One of the things in talking with corporate America, when something goes wrong, it's always, hey, who are we going to blame? Whose fault is it? Instead of saying, okay, how can we get this better? And, you know, whether you're a teacher at Trinity-Pawling, okay, one of the things you got to do, you got to keep the school open. You got to keep kids coming there. When they come to Trinity-Pawling, it's got to be an experience that the kids will never forget. And if you're a kid and you're just coming to the school, you're going to try to grab everything you can from Trinity-Pawling to make you better. There's a bond that you're forming with your friends in your classroom, with the teachers in your classroom, that's going to carry you for the next 50 years. Some of you guys will be heading off to college. I see one guy sitting there with a Cornell football shirt on. You know, there's a pride, there's a belief, there's a feeling about belonging to a university. And you're always going to be part of that university. When I was at Colgate, the only things that you saw on the way up to Colgate were cows and snow, okay? And and I'd say to the kids, why did you come to Colgate? And one kid would say to me, well, I know I'm going to be in New York City for the rest of my life. I'm going to spend 50 years there. And why not spend 4 years in the country in the peace and quiet of the wilderness before I go to New York? And Colgate was a liberal arts college, and we would have 100 of the top 500 companies come in and interview these people. And I'd say to one of the recruiters, you know, all of these kids are liberal arts majors. Why are you interested in them? He said, well, they're well-rounded. They don't have preconceived ideas, and we can train them the way we want to train them. So when you take and you start looking at what you want to do, think about big picture. Think about, okay, what do I want to do the next 50 years of my life? I was fortunate. I never went to work a day in my life. I enjoyed coaching. I enjoyed being around the players. It's hard being retired because it's hard to get off the treadmill. You know, you're up in the office at 6 o'clock. Maybe you get home by 1 o'clock in the morning. You never see your kids. I'd go to work in college Sunday afternoon. The next time I would see them is Friday night for dinner. They were asleep when I went to work in the morning. When I came home, they were asleep. But there's sacrifices. And, people say, how did you get that job? Well, you get that job by doing the best you can right where you are, okay? And if you do a good job, people will see that and they'll say, hey, we want that guy as part of our team. One time, there was a player of ours that was going to go to work for Caterpillar. So, president of the Caterpillar company called me and said, okay, tell me about this guy. And I said, hey, look, you should hire him. He'll be successful. Well, he didn't interview that well. I said, I'm telling you, he'll be very good for you. So they hired him. And a year later, I saw the owner of the company. I said, how's so-and-so doing? He said, Chris, I'm glad I listened to you. He's our best guy. He's the best guy right there. So what you do at Trinity-Pawling, what you do at the university you go to, people are always evaluating you. We would tell our players, you're evaluated not only on the field, but you're evaluated every place around the field. 2 years later, he called back the owner and said, what about this guy? I said, I wouldn't hire him. And they didn't. And the interesting thing, he went down for an interview and he blew the interview also. So I'm truthful with players. I'm truthful with people. It may not be what they want to hear. I think today's young people are going out into a crazy world. There are a lot of issues, but we have to rely on you folks to be the ones that go out and straighten up and do what you can to get America back where it belongs and where people get along, where it doesn't have to be us against them. It's, you got to give a little, you got to take a little. What do you want this to be? When I grew up, I thought if I had a $30,000 house in Brewster, New York, I'd be very, very happy. 29 moves later, I'll have 3 houses now, one in Connecticut, one on Cape Cod, and one in New Hampshire. You never know where you're going or where you're going to wind up. But that's a little bit of the journey and some of the things that I've learned. And one of the things I want to tell you, there was a coach by the name of Sam Ritigliano, coached at Greenwich High School in Connecticut, coached at UConn, and then went on and became the head coach of the Cleveland Browns. And he used to say to his players, there's 102 times during the course of a day that you have a chance to not say anything. And he would say, use them all. So that way you don't get yourself in trouble with your wife, with your girlfriend, with your parents, with the teacher. Sometimes it's just better to say nothing. So those are just a couple of things that, I wanted to share with you. I wanted to give you an opportunity to ask some questions and see what you're thinking. And, how is it to coach Eli Manning? He is an outstanding human being. He's a better person than he is a player, and he's a good player. And really was a fun guy to be around. Mark Brunell was the most competitive guy I've ever been around. Him and Tony Baselli, they were playing basketball down in Jacksonville in the pool. And Baselli was an offensive tackle and Brunell was 5'11" quarterback. And Baselli almost drowned him playing basketball and just to be competitive. But Flutie was very, very competitive also. Flutie played for us with the New Jersey Generals, and we had him and his wife over for Easter dinner. We played in the spring, and Flutie went out and played basketball with my son, and they played games 21. Now, Doug beat my son 21-0, 21-0, 21-0. Now, the father in me was saying, hey, Doug, let the kid score a point at least. But the coach in me said, well, he's going to win no matter what. So those were some of the experiences we had. Also, there was a tackle from Georgia that got a nice signing bonus. And I said to him, hey, why didn't you buy one of those condos over there, off of 95 there, instead of buying that car? He said, Coach, I can sleep in my car. I can't drive that house. So those are just some of the things that we had to deal with players and so on and so forth. I have 100 stories like that, but let me open it up to some questions from you guys.
Coach, those are tremendous, by the way. There's a couple questions that I just wanted to throw it at you. That you mentioned Eli Manning, and one of the things you think of, I'm a Giants fan, is his consistency. He just always kind of showed up. He always kind of came to work, and I think you're talking about the generational differences. With being told the truth, and I think football provides that in a lot of ways to kids, whether they like it or not. You're kind of you kind of put out there, and you got to kind of deal with it. And I think that's a good way. But one of the things that I was thinking about with Eli Manning is the consistency of it, and I'd say like that is something that's lost. Like showing up every day and doing the best you can every day, all the time. And I would say that just reading about your career, Coach, and it seems like that's exactly what you did your entire career. You kind of showed up, you did your job the best you could. Sometimes you were promoted, and sometimes you got another job out of it, but sometimes you didn't. And can you speak to that, just that consistency of showing up? It's half the battle. Showing up, and you got yourself a chance.
Well, the first thing in football, it's going to start at 1:00. So you have to be on time. I tell you what, if you are on time, you're ahead of 60% of the people in the United States right now. Okay? Because, when I went to UConn, Andy Baylock, we had the freshman football at that time. And Andy said, if you're a minute late, you're done. It's over. And it's better to be an hour early than a minute late. And, it's good to be on time, get in, get yourself organized. When I went to the Giants, I came from Dallas, and there was this question. Eli was only going into his 4th year, and everybody said, well, can he be a leader of the team? Well, the players in the locker room, if you just sit and you watch, when Eli walked across the locker room, the players were in awe. They realized that was the leader of our team. And Eli was the type of guy that if he had a problem with you, he would take you aside. He wasn't a yeller or a screamer, but he was one of the guys, and he was fun to be around. And we had a strong locker room. You had Michael Strahan, Tiki Barber had just retired. We had a pretty strong locker room, but it was clear to me that Eli was the leader of the group. And there's different ways to lead, but if you're consistent and you're somebody that you can count on, and the biggest thing is, I used to have a thing with the players. I would say to them, okay, Nick, if you win the lottery tonight, it's $397 million. Are you going to be here at Trinity-Pawling tomorrow? Okay. A lot of players would say, I'm not going to be here. I'm gone. See you. And then, you know, Mark Brunell, he would play for nothing. He just enjoyed the deal. And then I'd ask that question enough times that one player turned to me and said, Coach Palmer, if you win the lottery tonight, it's $398 million. Are you going to be here at work tomorrow? I said, absolutely. I'll be here tomorrow, but my tolerance for you is going to be very low. So it's, you know, it's something, money. You never got into coaching for money. You didn't get into teaching for money. You got in it because you love it. And as you young people go out and start your careers, find something you like. I was talking with a group at Wells Fargo, and we were talking about how do you keep, you know, you're coaching a guy that makes 10 times what you make. Okay. Well, is he going to listen to you? Is he not going to listen? And the answer is, if I'm making him better, he's going to listen to me. I said to him, how many people do you have that you supervise? He said, well, I supervise 100 people. I said, how many of them are happy? He said, maybe 15. I said, you got 85 people that are not happy? I said, that's a tough deal. So every time I go in a Wells Fargo bank, I go in and I try to figure out which part of that, is that person on the 85 that are not happy, or are they on the 15 that are happy? Because you can tell that, you know, because the person has got a smile, they're upbeat, you know, can I help you? Or you can go, we don't break $50 bills. Go to another teller. That's it. You know, you say, come on, help me where you can. So you got to decide. You're formulating your ideas. You know, my grandson comes home. He says, oh, the teacher doesn't like me. I said, why? Well, I was talking in school. Well, you were interrupting her. Well, how does that make you right? So, you know, I think you got to look at yourself like we talked about before. But if you just find somebody, whether it's a teacher, whether it's your parents, you know, somebody that can tell you the truth and give you an answer. Andre Johnson, the great wide receiver from University of Miami, played for the Houston Texans. We drafted him number 1. Me to find out about him. So you ask around and you ask coaches. And one of the coaches said, Andre was one of those guys, if you had a secret and you could only tell one person, you would tell Andre, because he would tell you if you were wrong and he wouldn't tell anybody else. I mean, that's a pretty big statement about a guy. And, you know, he had a great career. He worked hard. Now he's back with the organization working there. They're quality people. If you're a quality person and you enjoy what you're doing, you'll be very, very successful in life.
I got one from the gallery here that says, how often, Coach, would talented players have to be traded or released because they were a cancer in the clubhouse?
More often than you think. More often than you think. The game of football, there has to be synergy. There has to be 11 guys that work together. When I was in high school, some of you people are too young to remember the name Bruce Jenner. He went to Newtown High School. Great athlete. We made the all-star team with the Danbury News-Times. And under his caption said, could be the best athlete in the area. How about the best athlete in the world? And he gave up basketball. And I said to him, hey, Bruce, why'd you give up basketball? He said, I'm sick and tired of working my butt off, and I got guys on the team that don't work as hard as me. So I'm going to concentrate on track and field, and went to the Olympics. And that's, something you got to understand. We talked about the word trust before. You got to trust your teachers that they're going to make you the best student you can be. The teachers got to trust you that you're going to go home and study and do the extra work. Now, you may be able to do it in an hour and get an A, but the other person may have to take 3 hours to get the A. But the teacher's got to trust you to get what you got to do. So you're starting to form that trust. In football, I got to trust, if I'm a defensive player, I have my gap responsibility, and I got to keep the integrity of that gap secured. If the guy next to me that has the next gap doesn't, then we both look bad. If you're supposed to go 12 yards on a route and you only go 8 yards, I can't trust you because I'm not ready to throw you the ball when you're running that route. So there's a trust factor. People, when you look around, and Nick, you're a Giant fan, everybody was upset when the Giants traded Shockey. Okay? Shockey, a lot of today's athletes, it's all about the brand. It's not about winning and losing. It's all about the brand. The receiver that's out in Cleveland now, the Giants let him go. There wasn't a synergy that they fit in. I'm not saying they're bad people. I'm not saying, obviously, they're good players, but there wasn't the togetherness that you need for a team sport where you have 11 players. There's a lot of those things you don't see as a fan, but there are a lot of those problems. And, you take a look at our offensive line in 07 and 08, a bunch of average guys. Chris Snee was not recruited by Penn State. He was too short. He went to Boston College. Sean O'Hara, we took him as a free agent out in Cleveland and came back and played center. He was from Rutgers. Richie Siebert was a poor man's hard-nosed guy that somehow got the job done. Deal should have never been a left tackle in the NFL. But Dave Deal is a superhuman being and worked very hard, very, very hard. And then you had McKenzie, who was a mauler at the right tackle. Those 5 guys by themselves were just average guys. Those 5 guys together, they led the NFL in rushing. And Eli would always get them in the right scheme blocking-wise, but those 5 really worked together. So any team sport, even if you're not a starter, you're learning about being part of the team. Not everybody can be the number 1 salesman. Somebody has to be the number 2 or the number 3 or number 4. And there's something about teamwork and play that if you're a good team player, you'll be successful in life or be successful in the game.
Coach, one of the kids asked, what are the things that you expect from your captains, your leaders? You've alluded to some stuff, but what are the things that you expect from your leaders when you were head coach? When you were, obviously in the room with the quarterbacks, what were your expectations for those guys?
To be honest, that was the biggest thing, to be honest. And if we agreed on rules as captains, it was their responsibility to, make sure the rules were being followed. As captain, coaches can't be with you all the time. And young people are going to, you got to know where the line is. You can go up to the line and when you go to that line, the fun ends once you cross that line. And you as the captain, you got to say, hey, guys, we can't do that. We can go, we can have fun, but we can't do that. And if you can be the leader and do those things, and you don't have to be screaming and yelling or fighting with them. You just have to be someone that they look over and they see you working as hard as anybody in it. Doesn't mean you have to lift the most weights. Doesn't mean you have to be the fastest guy. But they can, if you, take a look if you're a Yankee fan. Jeter was a tremendous worker. He didn't say a lot. He wasn't out running the streets and stuff like that. You got to have something that people can say, I want to be like him. And also you want your captains to be able to come to you and say, Coach, I think you're wrong in that. And then we sit down and talk about it. And sometimes, hey, I am wrong. And I would, change what was happening. But you have to have communication. You as the leader, as a coach, you got to be able to listen. And sometimes you don't even have to listen. You got to have your eyes open and be able to see what's going on. And I remember I caught a kid in high school smoking, and the rules were you're not supposed to be smoking. So I take him down to the principal's office, and the principal says, okay. And then the principal comes back and says to me, are you sure you saw him smoking? I said, let me say this to you. I saw them smoking. I didn't make the rules. You made the rules, okay? But I can guarantee you, I will never see another kid smoking on the premise here ever, because you don't back up the rules. And, he was afraid of the parents and stuff like that. So, at that point, I was not going to, I'd go dig ditches before I would say, okay, you made the rules, not me. It's my job. You tell me when I came here, you enforce the rules. We enforce the rules. That's the way it went.
I think it's interesting that your comment about listening and seeing as a leader, as a coach, as a teacher. I think just in my short career that, I think that I find that you have to take a step back and just listen to the kids. I think I've learned more and grew more and become a better coach because I'm listening to what they're telling me. And it comes from the right individuals and stuff. But, it's like be adaptable to them.
The big thing, I think, when I went back, it's always nice to be around young people because they keep you young. Here I am 70 years old and I'm dealing with 18 to 22 years old. So not that they have to tell you, you just have to listen and you got to see. And, things are different. I didn't have any problems with the male athletes, but I had two women fight each other. We had two women fights, and I'm coming into work. It's 10 after 7 in the morning, and one of the teams were in working out in the weight room, and this girl comes out. All she has on is a bra, and I'm saying to myself, whoa, what's going on? Well, we got in a fight. What do you mean you got in a fight? We got in a fight in the locker room. I said, whoa. Go get a shirt on. Let's come in the office and talk this out. So the two came in and talked about it. And, times are different. And you have to be able to adjust. And, I told the two of them, and if something like that happened again, you don't fight a teammate, you're both done. Well, one of them got in a fight with another player. She was done. Her father came up and said, can I talk to you? I said, you can come on. If you want to drive up from New Jersey, you can go ahead and come up. But she knew what the rules were. She knew what the consequences were going to be. And that's where we are. I'm not changing my mind. So as a coach, you know, you can see things, you can hear things, and then the players have to have enough confidence that they can call you and talk to you. I'm home and I get a call from one of our women's lacrosse players. She said, my father wants me to graduate and I want to come back because, we can't play. I said, well, if I were you, I'd come back and I'd get my master's, because once you get your master's, then you're done. My senior year in college, I had gone to school during the summer and got ahead. And I started on my master's because at that time, you had to have your master's within 5 years or you couldn't teach. I was getting that master's as fast as I could. So I told the girl, she said, that makes sense. I said, now you aren't going to have to worry about your master's again. You'll have your degree and you'll play another year. You'll get your sport in for a year. But she sought me out because she was looking for the truth. And I'm sure parents might not be happy with me, but that's what happened. You got to tell the truth. That's the biggest thing. So
another question from one of our guys is he's talking about when you were a head coach in the NFL, and like, did you ever sleep? What was that like? What was a typical day? Are you awake for the entire day, or what do you do?
You don't get much sleep. I'll tell you that now. Normally we would play. Okay, Monday morning we would be in at 6:00. Grading the film, sometimes between 5 and 5:30. You would be there for the whole day. You'd probably get out between 12:30 and 1:00. You're back in the office at 5:30, 6:00 in the morning. Tuesday night, you might not get done till 1:30, 2:00 with the game plan. Wednesday, the players come in. You're back in at 6:30. Again, you go to practice and meet with the players. Wednesday night, you probably get out of there probably 11:00 because you're doing third down. Now, so much spread offense. You have a lot of third down plays on first down. Thursday night was an early night. You get out, you go in at 6:00 in the morning. Get out probably by 10. Friday would be in 6:30 again. And normally on Friday afternoon, you'd be out by 6:00. And normally that would be date night. You'd take your wife out for dinner, fall asleep in your food because you didn't have much sleep, and eat fast, and your wife wants to sit and talk with you. But that was date night. And then Saturday, you're back in the office by 7:30, 8:00. Most of the time, half the time you're flying out that afternoon, going to, a team to play. And if you're playing at home, you would go home and have some time with the kids on Saturday afternoon. You're back in Saturday night for meetings, and you're up Sunday morning, you have breakfast and go to church and go to the stadium and you play and start it all over again. And that goes like that for 17 weeks.
Can I ask you about, again, you have quite a coaching tree and guys that you coach with and under and all that. And one of the guys, there's a few guys, but one of the guys I want to start with is Coach Parcells, Bill Parcells, the legendary coach of the Giants and the Patriots. And you said that he was crucial in your development as a coach. And I just wanted to ask how so? Like, what did you learn from him?
When you worked for Bill, he was a guy that there was fear. The players were, he coached with using fear. And when you came to work, you better be on your A game. If you come on your B game and he thinks you're on your B game, he's going to go up one side of you and up and down you and just chew you out. Unbelievable. I'll give you one story. We're getting ready we beat Pittsburgh in '96, and I wanted a particular play, and it was 82 something, okay? And we didn't call it during the course of the game. So one of the things, Monday morning, Bill used to always come in at 7 o'clock. So I got in at 5:30, and I'm grading my film and doing my things, and it's around 5:45, and somebody's walking down the hall, and it's Coach Parcells. He sticks his head in my office and says, "We didn't run one of those effing 82s." Didn't say good morning, didn't say anything else, turned around and went back to his office. Now, that was his way of making sure that I wasn't getting complacent, and that I was going to be ready to go for the next game. And he knew how to make sure you were on your A game. And one other story, I wanted a certain receiver. He wanted a different receiver. Okay. Well, we didn't draft either receiver. Okay. So his receiver gets cut after 1 year. Okay. My receiver lasts 3 years. Okay. So the receiver I wanted, he gets cut. So he comes down. Your receiver got cut. And I'd been with him long enough. I said, he lasted a lot longer than yours. He said, you got a point. So he would push you to a point where you, at some point, you had to be able to stand up and say, okay, I've had enough. So
one of my mentors is Pete Rosamondo, who played up at BU. I don't know if he played for you, Coach, or
he did not play for me.
Yeah, the
He
coach.
played for Tony Sperano, right?
Played for Tony Sperano, yeah. And I had the privilege of coaching one of Coach Sperano's kids at Albany, University of Albany. Both of his sons went up there.
Right.
And I remember going to the convention, and we were down in Dallas, and I don't know if you were with Dallas then, but Coach Sperano was. And he had us over for steaks and the whole deal. And I was a young GA making $4, you know.
Yes.
It meant the world to me and the other guys. And I just remember how gracious he was. And then one spring ball, he came up, Coach Sperano came up to watch his son Tony just, in a spring practice when he could. And I remember talking ball, and Coach Rosamondo said, hey, could you hop on the board and teach us something? Like, teach us the best stuff you do. And Coach Sperano, I remember, turned into from a very kind of reserved, quiet, thoughtful man into an absolute raging, intense coach on the board. And I couldn't believe the transformation that happened in front of me. But again, just a guy and his memory, and to me as a young coach, he kind of showed me how to do it, briefly. But any thoughts on Coach Sperano?
Yeah, Tony, when I got the University of New Haven job, Tony was a part-time coach, and I brought him on full-time, and then I took him to Boston University with me, and then brought him to the Cleveland Browns with me. So those 3 moves gives me an idea how I feel about the guy. He was an excellent recruiter, and his players played for him. And he had that ability to be tough and demanding in the classroom and on the field, and then be your friend off the field.
Coach, how about anything? Any good stories from Tom Coughlin?
Oh, there were a lot of good stories about Coach Coughlin. I still don't understand being 5 minutes early. We set the clocks 5 minutes early, but we left the meeting 5 minutes early. So it was still 60 minutes. You know what I mean? So I've never quite figured that out. But Tom was a guy that, you know, I knew him since 1976 when he was at Syracuse and I was at Colgate. And, you know, he's a demanding guy. He's the type of guy that's, you know, he has everything planned. He knows what he wants to do. And I'm coaching for him in Jacksonville, and we're playing Parcells. And it's Friday afternoon, and I'm going over the game plan, and he comes in the back room, and he says to me, Chris, do you believe this crap? They're calling Parcells the big tuna and me the sunfish. And like, I'm thinking about the game, So I said to him, Tom, don't let the press talk to Judy. That was his wife. He didn't know whether to punch me or laugh or whatever the deal was. But those, you know, I had a good relationship with Tom, and he's a good football coach. Now he defines coaching where he's going to push you to the next level. Now, you may not like it, but you know, we would win and it wouldn't be good enough because he thought it should be better. And that happened with me and Coach Sperano. We're beating Springfield 35-0, and we give up a sack for a safety late in the fourth quarter. So I'm upset because the defensive guys, you know, they're trying to pitch a shutout. And as the head coach, they thought all I was interested in is stats and stuff like that. So called Coach Sperano in my office. Well, he goes home and tells his wife, this guy's nuts. I don't want to work for him and everything else. But you always have to try to keep and push guys to have a standard and don't deviate from that standard.
Coach, we're right around 8, so I got one last question, and then, you know, anything
Sure.
you got. But the one thing you can say about this group and about, you know, the kids right now is they're going through something we've never gone through ever in our whole life, and it's been hard. You know, the kids. What do you say to the seniors, the PGs, the kids that are counting on this season? You know, I talked to one kid about kind of, you know, senior year is usually a culmination. You know, like it's all the hard work to kind of get you there, and you go through all the stuff to have that year, and it's taken away. But put yourself in my shoes, and what can you say to those kids, you know, going through what they're going through now?
Well, I have a granddaughter that's up at Merrimack College, and she's not real thrilled about the, you know, staying at home and virtual learning and those things. And I think it's very, very tough because your senior year, I mean, it's really like life. You know, you go through grammar school, you get up to 8th grade, you're kind of the kingpin, and, you know, you're running the school. Then you go and you become a freshman in high school. You're starting from the bottom. You go up, now you're senior, and, you know, you're kind of running everything. You go to college, you're a freshman. They're always doing things to the freshmen. And then you go out and get a job. You started from the bottom and going up. So the cycle of life is there. This is just a bump in the road. It's something that there's nobody that's playing football that's 50 years old. It's going to end sometime. Appreciate being at Trinity-Pawling. Appreciate the friends that you have. Appreciate the relationship that you have with your teachers and your coaches, because you never know when it's going to be over. Make every day count. You know, you can feel sorry for yourself. You know, at some point, this is going to be over. It's like a game. You play, you go, You think you're going to win, you don't win. Well, my first coaching class, the professor said, if there's 100 games on a weekend, half of you are going to be happy because you won, and half of you are going to be upset because you lost. And how you handle that is going to be how you succeed or fail in life. The year that we went to the Super Bowl, we started off, we lost our first 2 games. Bledsoe was our quarterback. They had just moved me to the quarterbacks. And Peter King said to me, do you think you guys are going to be all right? I said, Peter, I think we're all right. I saw what Bledsoe did today. I'm very, very encouraged, and we're going to be decent. He said, if not, if you lose next week, I'll be back asking the same question. Well, we went on and we won 12 of the next 14 games, and we finished up 12-4. And coach, you get a belief in your players and you see them do things. Now, these kids are going through this. I'll tell you one story. I'm retired. I go down to Brewster. I'm going to take, and one of my brothers gives me a job. He says, why don't you go down and clean some of the headstones down at the cemetery? I said, okay. So I get this wet be gone. So I go down and I'm spraying the headstones. And I come to my grandfather's first wife, okay? And she died in 1918. And I look around the cemetery, and all the other spots that I went to take care of the headstones of my relatives, you know, there were a couple in that year, couple in the next couple of years. They were spread out. But in 1918, there was like 12 or 14. For a small town like Brewster, that was a lot of people. And I just stopped and I said to myself, you know, it's like football. Everything comes in a cycle. Life comes in a cycle. These people died 100 years ago, and now we're going through the same thing. So from that standpoint, it's something that you can cherish and learn from and share with your kids. You know, my grandparents lived through the Depression. I understand now better, having seen what they would go through going through the Depressions. When I was a young kid growing up, everybody had their garage away from the house because they were afraid the Model T was going to catch on fire and burn the house down. If it burned down the garage, that was fine. But along the garage, they always had grapes and rhubarb and stuff like that. They were growing in case the Depression ever came back. So you learn from what went before you. And I can just say to the kids now that somebody went through not similar, but pretty much like what we're going through here 100 years ago. And look how the country has, you know, came from there. So hang in there. Don't let it defeat you. You stay who you are. Be true to yourself, and everything will work out.
Coach, thanks for everything. Thanks for coming on and hopping on and giving a little bit of wisdom our way on a Tuesday night in October. We appreciate it. You're the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I hope you got something out of it. Enjoy it. Make relationships and be true to yourself.
Roll Pride, Coach. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye now.